Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Chess Puzzle Warrior. Today we are continuing with the series of solving 10 puzzles per time. Yesterday we solved from the first puzzle to the 10th puzzle, where we discovered that most of them have these two themes, forced checkmates, and we also have forced material wins. And now we are going to solve from 10 to 20. And now from 10 to 20, you're going to expect a bit more complex puzzles, but they're not that hard at this level. So we are going to expect things like tricky checkmates. These are checkmates that are not that common. We are going to see where situation where we are going to ignore threats, like a position where your opponent might be threatening checkmate in one, but you have a series of moves that can help you win the game. But you have to be playing very forceful moves. These usually involves checks. You will either check until you checkmate, or you're going to use the check to eliminate the piece that is threatening the checkmate. The other one tactic that you're going to see is what we call eliminating a defender. These are situations where we have a piece that's either defending the king or defending another piece. So we are going to either chase it away or we're going to capture it. And by doing so, we're going to win some material. We'll also see what we call quiet moves. These are moves that initially they appear like they're not doing anything because you don't capture any piece, you don't give any check. So basically, after you play that move, your opponent might even be in a rush to do something else because they don't realize the threat right together. So we are going to see those quiet moves. We're also going to see a bit more advanced tactics. Some those things like decoy. Decoy is a situation where you force an opponent's piece to go to a bad square. They don't want to go to that square, maybe a king. And after the king goes to that square, then you can land maybe a fork. The knight can fork the king and the knight, the king and the queen, sorry. We can also have what we call deflection. Deflection is basically making a defending piece go away so that it stops defending a piece or a king. We also have what we call discovered attack. Discovered attack is when you move one of your pieces and maybe it's a discovered check or you are attacking a piece. We'll also have skewers and pins. We'll have counter attacks, elimination. So what we are talking about, eliminating the defenders. We'll have what we call promotion tactics, where these are endgame. So in endgame, where maybe you are pushing a pawn and your opponent is also pushing a pawn on the other side. So you'll have to be very careful to calculate your moves to see whether when you queen, whether you will queen with a check or not. And also there might be a situation where you're not supposed to promote to a queen. You're supposed to under promote. Maybe you get a bishop, maybe you get a knight, or you can even get a rook, depending on this position. So for the first 10 puzzles, we are going to move a bit fast because we already discussed what to expect, but I'll be simply recapping what we said yesterday. So like for this one, as you can see, this is a simple checkmate in one. We just need to capture the rook. This is another checkmate in one. This one is another first checkmate in, we first capture this rook, they take back, and I take back. Here is what I was, Here is what I was saying about counting the number of attackers and number of defenders. This rook is attacked two times and it's defended only once. So we can simply capture it. Okay, this one is another, no, this one is not checkmate in one because after I capture here, the king can simply go, the king can go here. So if the king goes there, how do we respond? I think we can simply capture this pawn again with the check. And now the king can go where? The king can go there, or the king can go there. But after any of these moves, this rook can come here and give another check. Yeah. So I think this is the first move. We give a check. Yeah, that's it. Okay, this one, I think we just need to play the rook here with a check. And after that, the king is out of squares. The king cannot go there. The king can't go there. The king can't go there. The king can't go there. So the king has only one square there. If they go there, the queen comes in with a check. So when you're playing chess, you have to assume that your opponent is going to find the best response. They're going to prolong the game. So after that check, they can prolong the game by first giving up the knight. So they play the knight there. We take the knight. They then give up the rook. We take the rook. So this is not a simple first checkmate in two. Most likely it will be a first checkmate in four because they are going to put up some resistance. There we go. Okay. So these other one, I think this is checkmate in one because once you capture this pawn with the queen, this is what I was saying about two pieces working together. Now here the queen and the bishop are doing a very wonderful job. They are combining to attack this pawn, and by attacking the pawn, they're also attacking the king. So after we give that check, the king is out of squares. So that will be a simple checkmate. Here again, this rook and this queen, they are working together. And this is a very common pattern in these puzzles. So once you learn it, it will be very easy for you to solve it, because it involves first capturing this pawn and then giving a check here after that, we sacrificing the queen. So here we go. Yeah. This is another very, very common tactic motif, because here we just need to capture this pawn. And this is a very common checkmate pattern. Okay, this is another one where the rook and the queen are working together. They are both attacking the square. So we just need to give a check here. So basically, what we are doing here is we are forcing the king to move away. And once the king moves away, it eliminates his escape squares. So we give a check, then another check, then checkmate. Uh, this is the same one like we did, I think, here. Yeah. So the knight and the queen are doing a wonderful job. They're both attacking h7. So we simply need to capture the pawn, and this will be checkmate. So those were the first 10 puzzles. Now we are going to proceed from now to 10 to 20. And from here, we'll expect things to get a little bit harder, but not that complex. These will be simple things that you can solve with ease. So like here, I think we just need to move the knight here, and these will be checkmate, because the queen is covering this square, the queen is covering this square, and the pawn is covering this square. So after we give a check, they can't go here because the knight will be also covering that square. So we basically take away all the squares, and that will be checkmate. This is another simple checkmate in one. We just need to capture this pawn. So this is what I was talking about. Most people here will panic. They realize that the rook is under attack. So the first instinct will be to capture the knight. But in chess, the the main goal is to capture the king. Every other thing is just a means to an end. So we are not interested in saving our rook if we can deliver checkmate. So we just ignore the threat and we simply capture here, and this will be checkmate. So in most of these situations, don't panic. Remain calm. Look for moves that checkmate the king. The same in this position. As you can see, our queen is under attack. So most of us will panic. We realize that if we capture the rook, the knight is defending it. So we are going to lose the queen. So we'll start looking for squares where the queen can escape. And at the moment, it looks like the queen is almost trapped, because we can't go there, we can't go there, we can't go there, we can't go there, we can't go there. So we only have two moves, there and there. But we don't have to do that when we have a bigger threat. So basically, it's like they say in Suits. I don't know whether anyone has watched that series called Suits. It's a legal drama series. So there's a scene where Harvey tells Mike that if someone points a gun at you, so someone points a gun at your head, what are you supposed to do? And Mike was like, you're supposed to give them all your money, you're supposed to give them all your possession because they have a gun. And Harvey was like, wrong. What you're supposed to do is open your vest and show that you have a bomb. So you have a bigger threat. So they have a gun, you have a bomb. So you have the upper hand. The same in this situation. They have a gun of our queen, but we have a bomb. The knight will simply come here, and this will be checkmate. Okay, let's see these other one. This one, I think we just need to capture this pawn. After that, the king has one legal move there, and now the knight captures here. So this is the first. No, it will not be a first checkmate, because then the queen can check. You have to always anticipate your opponent's move, and you have to assume that they play the strongest defense in the position. Don't assume that they'll just go down without a fight. No, they'll put up a fight, they'll put up resistance. So you have to find the best moves. Okay, let's see. This one, I think we just need to give a check there. After that check, they push, we check, and that's checkmate in two. So this is the first checkmate in two. Okay, let's see this other one. So most people will rush to play here without realizing that the queen is defending that square. But we don't have to give a check just there. We can give a check there. And this one will lead to checkmate because this square is not defended. So before you move, always check, is there another piece defending that square? Okay, this one looks a bit tricky, but not really, because we just need to give a check here. After that check, the king cannot go there. The bishop is covering that square. So the only option is to block. And after they block, we simply check. And this will be checkmate. So this is the first checkmate in two. Okay. So here the opponent is threatening to push the pawn and queen. So they are they are planning to bring in a new queen. What can we do to stop them? Most people might panic and decide to sacrifice the bishop, because in this situation, this passed pawn is more dangerous than the bishop. So as much as we say the value of a pawn is 1 and the value of a bishop is 3, in this situation, this pawn is worth more than the bishop. In chess, we have what we call the static value of a piece, and we have what we call the dynamic value of a piece. So a piece can be highly valued in a static position. This is maybe in the beginning, in the opening. But as the game progresses, some pieces value might appreciate and other pieces value might depreciate. In some situation, you might find yourself giving up the rook in exchange for a pawn, because in that situation, that pawn is more valuable than the rook. The same in this case, this pawn is more valuable than the bishop because it's threatening to queen in the next move. But before we rush to defend, we should look for ways to attack. They usually say the best defense is attack. The best defense is offense. So first we give a check there. So where will the king go? The king can't go there. These two pawns are covering that square. The king can't go there. The bishop is covering that square. The king can't go there either. So the only option is to block with the rook. And we simply take. So this is the first checkmate in two. Okay, now this is an endgame. And they say that you have to play the endgame like a machine. What that basically means is that you have to be precise. You have to be precise in your calculation, because usually in endgame, one wrong move and you're done. And it's usually just about tempo. Like if you make a slow move and your opponent queens before you, or they queen with a check, you're done. So in this situation, let's see what happens if we check. If we take, they take, and then we push the pawn. And after we push the pawn, now we are going to draw the square. I don't know whether you know about the square. So there, 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 there. So the king is outside the square. So that means that this king cannot stop our pawn from promoting. So that means that we can just go ahead and capture and then push. Push. The pawn, the king is too slow. It will never stop our pawn. So the square is just a means of finding out whether the pawn can safely queen or the opponent king will be in time to stop it. So let's see the final one, the 20th one. We first give a check there. The king is out of moves, so they will have to block. And after they block, we give another check there with the queen. Now forcing the king to go away. Now this is what we call deflection. We are making the king go away from the defense of the rook. Because at this position, let's first get to that position. At this position, as you can see, the king is doing a very good job of defending the rook. So, but once we play here, now the king has no option but to move. And the rook cannot block as it's pinned. So we give a check. Now the king goes away and we simply capture the rook and that's it. So this will be checkmate. So I will stop there for now. From tomorrow, now we are going to continue from 20 to 30. And we are going to see the kind of tactics to expect at this level. So hopefully you learned something. See you tomorrow. Peace out.